Hey guys, so today's going to be a bit of a different video today. Like I said, I'm going to be expanding my channel to tackle other YouTubers besides the transgenders and the other people I sort of normally go after. So today I'm going to respond to a guy that you guys are probably all familiar with, VeganGoines. Now, I don't have as much of a problem with veganism as I have with VeganGoines as a person, and I'll go into that in more detail throughout this video. But I do think that VeganGoines is a funny person, and I do think he is rather memeable, and part of the reason why is because I think he's easy to compare to a character in one of my favorite movies, 12 Monkeys, because Brad Pitt plays a very crazy, comical character in the film 12 Monkeys, and the character's name is Jeffrey Goines, and he and VeganGoines actually share a lot of similarities. Goines is so extreme that he gets kicked out of his own crazy animal rights group. And he's also not quite right in the head. He says things like this.
If you don't, what are you then, I ask you? What? Mentally ill. Back, Jim, back. If you don't buy things, toilet paper, new cars, computerized blenders, electrically operated sexual devices, stereo systems with brain-implanted headphones, screwdrivers, miniature built-in radar devices, voice-activated computers.
Take it easy, Jeffrey.
Or this.
And soaps. Now, he's crazy, right? See? There's no right, there's no wrong, there's only popular opinion.
Or my favorite line.
Real killer feast we're putting on tonight. Lots of dead lamb, dead cow, dead pig.
But anyway, Brad Pitt does a good job of playing him. I was a little skeptical at first, but this movie actually convinced me that Brad Pitt could do a really good job of acting. Anyway, it's not just this character that makes 12 Monkeys one of my favorite movies. It's also just a fun movie in general, and it's also directed by Terry Gilliam. Mostly I like it because it's directed by Terry Gilliam. But anyway, I'm getting off track. I thought it would be fun to call VeganGoines and make it into a hashtag/meme. So please make memes comparing him to Jeffrey Goines. Try to make VeganGoines a thing on Twitter. Preferably I would like it to be a thing like Glanderson Booper. If he ever does live streams, and I know that he does because he does all the debates. He loves doing the debates and yelling at people and being an asshole. Even if he does make good points, it doesn't really matter because he loves yelling at people. I mean, I haven't seen that many of his debates. I've seen some of them, and he just likes being mean to people, basically. I mean, I know I'm mean to people, but that's basically his strategy. It would just be great to spam his streams with VeganGoines, if that's not harassment. I'm not sure if that's harassment or not, so. I mean, I know the Drunken Peasants do the Glanderson Booper thing all the time with Tommy Sotomayor, but I know that's kind of a fine line. Anyway, I'm getting off track. Let's just get in the video. He's talking about whether veganism makes you a good person or not. And his responses are to this question, and I just want to say, hashtag not all vegans. I don't have a problem with veganism, and I'll go more into that in the video. I know plenty of people online who are vegans, and I have no problem with them. And if you're a vegan, feel free to put your input on this issue. I know that this guy does not represent you. So I know this was a long ramble. Just want to explain why I call him VeganGoines and all that. Now, let's just get into the video.
Vegans have a very bad reputation for being pompous and judgmental, and there's a million internet memes making fun of this.
Why do you think this is? Why do you think this is? Could it be because you're one of those vegans? One of the most famous examples of one of those vegans? I wonder.
And I especially hear this a lot because I often debate ethics on my YouTube channel. And it's really easy to debate ethics from a vegan standpoint because all you really have to do is point out that, you know, it's wrong to torture and kill animals for no good reason, and there's really no debating this because as soon as you admit, yeah, it's perfectly fine to torture and kill animals for no good reason, you're basically admitting that you're a psychopath, and you've just lost the debate because you've proven that you don't even understand the concept of morals.
Okay, several things to address here. He's talking about torturing and killing animals for no reason. Okay, on torturing animals, I understand he's referring to the bad practices of factory farms. I understand that a lot of farms out there are factory farms, and they do unethical practices, and that is a shame. And that should not be tolerated, and I understand we need to reform those. So I understand his point there, and that is for no reason, other than the farms want to save money and all that. But as for killing animals, yeah, that is done for a reason. That's done so people can eat. Yeah, and then also the sheer irony that he wants to call other people psychopaths. The sheer lack of self-awareness coming from the man who filmed his grandfather having a heart attack. Coming from the man who's made death threats. Now, I know that some of those were trolling, but I'm pretty sure some of them weren't, like when he threatened Mr. Repsion and all that stuff. Dude, seriously, you're the one calling other people psychopaths. Give me a break.
So there's really no logical way to justify this, and what I often hear as a response, "Oh what, you think you're better than me just cause you're a vegan? If I want to lock animals up in tiny little cages, abuse them, and then brutally murder them by slitting their throats open, that's my own personal choice. Is this America? I'm pretty sure this is America."
Nice straw manning there, dude. There are very few people who want to be sadistic animal abusers.
Now, this is stupid for several reasons, but first I want to point out how manipulative this argument is. It's an attempt to trivialize wrongdoing by oversimplifying what it means to be a good person. This is essentially a straw man argument where, instead of actually acknowledging the real criticism that it's wrong to torture and kill animals for no good reason, they're changing around the argument to mean you can only be a good person if you're vegan, which is an absurd statement, because by that reasoning, Martin Luther King would be a bad person just because he ate animal products, despite all the good he did for the Black Rights Movement, and by that same reasoning, if Hitler were vegan, he would be considered a good person despite being one of the worst monsters in history, so this isn't what vegans are arguing.
Okay, I'm legitimately lost here. First of all, he's saying that people who are arguing against him are strawmanning, when he just made a strawman argument. Oh, the sheer lack of self-awareness rears its head again. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. And then he's saying, yeah, by those standards, you know, Hitler would be good and MLK would be bad. But you just made that exact same argument that, oh, torturing, killing animals is wrong, therefore you're a bad person. And, like, which side are you on, man? I don't get what you're saying here.
Simply stating that it is wrong to torture and kill animals isn't the same thing as claiming you can only be a good person if you're vegan.
I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today.
Well, Martin, your time's up. You're never gonna eat another slice of bacon again, you bigoted piece of shit. And what makes a person good is complicated. There's a lot of factors to consider when deciding whether someone's good or bad, but would you consider someone a good person if they're kind, nice, polite to everyone, they're honest, generous, maybe they even donate to charity, but secretly they're a rapist or a serial killer? Oh, you think you're better than them just because you don't commit rape or murder? Well, sure, those people commit rape and murder, but they do all of these good things too. See how this argument makes no sense in any context? You can't just claim that a wrongdoing you regularly commit doesn't matter because in every other aspect of life, you're a perfectly good, reasonable human being.
I'm still kind of confused here, but I'm starting to see his point. He's trying to backtrack by saying, okay, if you're not a vegan, you can still be a good person. But then he's also saying you're a psychopath for not being a vegan, for eating meat. I'm so confused. And then he used the rape and murder example, and did you notice, with the rape and murder thing, for his examples, he showed Bill Clinton, who legitimately has been accused of rape. I'm not sure if he has been convicted. And then he showed Hillary Clinton for the murder example. And now look, I hate Hillary Clinton as much as anyone else. But since when has Hillary Clinton killed people? I mean, I guess if you count drone strikes, maybe, but I don't get what he's saying here.
All of your actions matter. They add up to what makes you a good or bad person, and you can't trivialize causing the suffering and death of animals. And honestly ask yourself, would you consider someone to be a good person if they commit violence against animals? If they're a perfectly good, reasonable human being in every other aspect, but behind your back, they like to lock animals up into tight confined spaces, abuse them, and then kill and eat them, would you consider that person to be a good person? I'd imagine most of you would say no, but that's something almost everyone does, or at least directly supports with their food choices.
Okay, so then he's saying that MLK would be a bad person. Then what was the whole point of that little skit there he did with MLK? I don't get it. I don't get this at all.
And this can be excused to some extent because of cultural indoctrination and ignorance, but if you're fully aware that your food choices cause the suffering and death of animals, and you still continue to eat these foods, can you call yourself a good person? Can you continue to trivialize the suffering and death of animals just because of things like tradition? Wrong is wrong, and if you recognize wrongdoing but still continue to do it, what does that make you? Can you honestly look in the mirror and call yourself a good person?
Okay. Oh my god. Oh, it's so frustrating. It's so frustrating to try to respond to this person's argument, because he's such a insipid. This moral grandstanding. I'm so superior over you because I don't eat meat. I hate this moral grandstanding, and I don't even have an issue with veganism. See, that's the thing, I don't even have an issue with veganism at all, but this makes me want to have an issue with veganism. But let me try and address this point. Okay, eating meat is not the same thing as wanting or liking to, or directly torturing animals and tying them up in cages and stuff. Okay, I understand that when you buy meat, yes, you are likely contributing to factory farms. Not necessarily. There are the cage-free animals and all of that. Those exist too, VeganGoines, but I understand that factory farms are an issue. However, trying to guilt everyone into veganism by saying, oh, look at factory farms, therefore, if you eat meat, you are just as bad as the people who run these farms and who contribute directly to the suffering of these animals, who directly torture these animals. No, that's not the truth. That's very misleading to say. And you're saying cultural indoctrination. No, people aren't indoctrinated into eating meat. People have natural urges to eat meat. That is how our brains are wired. We are omnivores. We want to eat meat and plants and stuff. Look, and I get it. We can, go against that wiring and change our diets. But it's something that's difficult to do. It's something that would be difficult for me to do. I mean, I've considered going vegan, if for nothing else, the health benefits of it. I mean, you could be vegan, and it all depends really on what you eat, not necessarily whether you eat meat or not. It's more, are you eating enough protein and not enough sugar and all that. But, it also doesn't contribute to factory farms and helps the environment because of the energy and that goes into producing meat and all of that. Anyway, I don't necessarily have a problem with veganism, but this whole guilting people into it is not the solution. And it's difficult for people to go vegan. It's difficult to adopt that diet. I'm not saying that you shouldn't try it. I mean, go ahead if you want to try it. But this is not the way to go about with vegan activism. I don't have a problem with vegan activism, but the way that you're going about it is just not the right way. It's the thing that I have a problem with.
Hey Daryl, how's your new job going at that new slaughterhouse?
Well, it ain't going too good. I gotta stun these pigs by shooting them in the head with this dang old bolt gun, and I finish them off by slitting their throats open. Well, one of these pigs don't get stunned by the gun, so when I go to slit its throat, it starts squirming around all over the place and knocks me down, and I hit myself upside the head. So now I got a concussion, gotta take 2 weeks off work, and company won't give me no paid leave.
Oh my god, I had no idea slaughterhouses were that horrible. I can't believe they wouldn't give you paid leave after you got hurt like that.
More strawmanning. I mean, there aren't that many people who work at slaughterhouses. And I'm sorry, but, I mean, I'm not so sure about the conditions of slaughterhouses in terms of how humane they are. I wouldn't be surprised if they were inhumane for the animals, but if they were legitimately not being humane to the people either, and not giving them paid leave and stuff like that, wouldn't that be an issue for the people too? Like, are you not caring? Are you implying that if they didn't give people paid leave, you wouldn't care about that? I have a feeling that if someone like him existed in the 1920s or whatever, and he read The Jungle at the time, he just wouldn't care.
Another logical problem with this reasoning that vegans are no better than anyone else and they should have no right to judge is that you're essentially saying might makes right. You're not only trivializing the suffering and death of animals, but you're claiming that it's perfectly justified just because you have the power and will to do it. And this is where you'll catch a lot of meat eaters being complete hypocrites because in one breath they'll say, yeah, it's perfectly fine to kill animals because I like the taste of meat and I should have the choice to do it. But then in the next breath they'll say, hey, you have no right to judge me. Who do you think you are?
Again, I don't know what you're talking about, but I have a feeling this is just another straw man. Like, all of his arguments against meat eaters are straw men. I had an idea that he was going to make some rational points, but of course he isn't. Why am I not surprised?
So here's an article which is a great example of this. A guy named Alex Dean is trying to defend a restaurant which is being protested by vegans for serving foie gras, and the title is Join Me in Supporting a Small Business Which is Threatened by Vegan Bullies. If you aren't familiar with foie gras, it's fatty duck liver, and what they do to make foie gras is they take ducks, shove tubes down their throat, and then put food down these tubes directly into their stomachs and force feed them to the point that they develop fatty liver disease, and then of course they kill them, rip out their livers, and eat it. And this whole process is extremely painful and stressful for these ducks because it is literally torture. So according to this guy, it's ethical to confine animals, shove tubes down their throat, and force feed them to the point that they develop serious chronic illnesses, torture and kill them, but vegans are bullies for protesting this kind of sick, unnecessary violence.
Okay, several problems with that argument there. Okay, I will acknowledge that the title of that article that guy had up, calling them vegan bullies, did sound a little biased. However, of course, our friend VeganGoines here left out all of the context for what the vegan protesters were doing, and only left in the context for how the ducks were treated. Now, I will acknowledge that how the ducks were treated was horrible, and if that story is true, which I'm assuming it probably is actually, because I have heard about and researched some of the conditions that some animals go through in factory farms, and it is indeed horrible. And I do think people have the right to protest that. But he left out all of the context for what the protesters were doing. I mean, if you look in that picture, there's that one lady with a megaphone yelling at people. I mean, he didn't say what they were doing. They could have indeed been bullying people. They could have been disruptive and disturbing the peace and going overboard with their protests. I mean, you don't know.
Don't open that! It's an alien planet! Is there air? You don't know!
And they could have been peaceful too. I mean, I don't know. He just left out all the context. He's just trying to paint them in the best light ever, and what was happening in the worst light ever. But worst of all, he said that because this guy is a meat eater, he must hate vegans and love the torture of animals, and this must be applied to all meat eaters. Generalization much?
This is the kind of dishonesty you have to eat meat. You have to delude yourself to the point where you think torturing and killing animals is perfectly ethical, but protesting this kind of violence, that makes you a bully. Who are the better people here? Meat eaters or vegans?
You're pitting all meat eaters against all vegans. Nice tactic there, bro.
So in this article, he states, there is a small first-class French restaurant which cooks in the best traditions of that country's fine cuisine, located on London's unprepossessing Gary's Inn Road. It's called Otto's. My plea is that you dine there soon if you read this blog, and share the freedom-minded views that it generally espouses. Then you should go there before it's too late. So you support the freedom to commit horrible, unnecessary violence, but you don't support the freedom to protest horrible, unnecessary violence.
The guy say that he supported that violence, and he never said to shut the protesters down or anything. He said that he was concerned that the protesters were shutting his practice down. You're completely misrepresenting him.
It's funny how meat eaters always complain about vegans being crazy and radical. Well, which group has the body count? Which group uses violence? Which group is against the freedom of speech?
Which group completely misrepresents their opposition? Now, of course, not all vegans. I'm just talking about you, dude.
And this is even being written into law. There are now ag-gag laws that punish whistleblowers for exposing cruelty in the animal agriculture industry.
Now, that is actually horrible, and that is a violation of the freedom of speech, and that should not be going on. I am completely against people punishing whistleblowers. I think whistleblowers are very important when it comes to exposing corruption. However, that's not the fault of meat eaters. That's the fault of big corporations who don't want to get in trouble for doing bad things.
So, again, if you're going to claim that veganism isn't a morally superior position to have, then you are seriously delusional and incredibly dishonest.
Okay, stop with this whole I'm morally superior grandstand. Like I said, it's not veganism that I have a problem with. Veganism is perfectly fine. In fact, there's plenty of benefits to it. It's this moral grandstanding that makes me so frustrated. Just stop it, dude. Just stop it. You're not morally superior to anyone. In fact, you're worse than a lot of people. You're the one who filmed your grandfather having a heart attack. Not me, okay? You're the one who makes death threats. Not me. You're the one who strawmans and misrepresents your opposition. Not me. You're the one who yells at people in debates and later makes videos further misrepresenting and trying to insult them. Not me. I don't even think this guy believes in what he says, to be honest. I don't think he even cares about animals that much, to be honest. I mean, that's just what I think. Because why would he try so hard to be a morally superior person if he legitimately thinks he's morally superior? He just seems like he's trying to cover up for the fact that he is such an awful person.
To think violence and being against the freedom of speech is a morally justified position. And don't get confused, I'm not claiming that you automatically become a good person by going vegan. Like I said before, what makes a person good is complicated, and you can be a horrible person as a vegan. I've known vegans who lie, cheat, steal, manipulate.
You.
There are plenty of really fucking stupid, neglectful vegans who've caused the death of their own children by not giving them proper nutrition and denying them modern medicine. Veganism doesn't get rid of bad people. It does a lot of good for animals, the environment, but it won't make anyone a good person. And there are even vegans who are neo-Nazi white supremacists, and I'm not even kidding. A guy with the YouTube channel Simply Vegan ended up making a second channel devoted to proving how awesome a guy Hitler was and how Jews were lying to us this entire time. So the point I'm making is veganism is a morally superior position.
But if veganism is a morally superior position, then what was that whole rant about how some vegans are bad and that some vegans can be bad people? Your arguments are logically inconsistent, and I hate this moral grandstanding like I've said a billion times.
And if you were to go vegan and stop supporting the suffering and death of animals, that would make you a better person, but it wouldn't make you a good person. Veganism is just the moral baseline where if you recognize the cruelty in the animal products industry, you have to stop supporting that industry to even be considered a good person. Just like how you have to not commit rape and murder to be considered a good person.
Okay, first of all, they're not on the same level. I mean, yes. First of all, okay, eating meat is not the same thing as abusing animals. Let's get that out of the way first, okay? They're not the same thing. Stop with this false equivalency. Second of all, even abusing animals is not the same thing as rape and murder. They're still pretty horrible things, but it's not the same thing. I hate this guy so much. I want to punch my computer screen.
If you support unnecessary violence, plain and simple, I don't think you should be considered a good person, and if you want to be a good person, then start by going vegan.
Alright, so I kind of get what he's saying now. He's saying being a vegan doesn't necessarily make you a good person, but if you're not a vegan, you're a bad person. That is what he's saying. I finally figured it out now. Alright, fuck that. Fuck him. Honestly, this person is an idiot. I'd take Jeffrey Goines over him any day. At least the worst thing Jeffrey Goines ever did was gaslight Bruce Willis, which wasn't even the worst thing, because basically the whole film 12 Monkeys is Bruce Willis getting gaslit. Anyway, this video was infuriating. I hope I was able to debunk his claims. Like I said, I have no issue with veganism. It does have benefits. It could potentially improve your health, though not 100%, of course. You can still have an extremely healthy diet and still eat meat. It all depends on moderating your diet and making sure you get the right nutrients and the right amount of calorie intake and all of that. It does help the environment because there's more energy put into meat production than into plant production. It does not support factory farms, although of course that's not the same thing as abusing animals. You're making false equivalencies. So there are benefits to it. I have no problem with anyone who wants to go vegan, or even people who want to advocate being vegan. I don't necessarily think that veganism in and of itself is going to eliminate factory farms, because I think factory farms are a much bigger problem than that. I don't think it's realistic that we're going to make everybody go vegan, and so I think more than that needs to be done. The only way to stop factory farms is to reform laws within it to stop the abuse that's going on. That's just my personal opinion. But yeah, I have absolutely no issue with veganism. I know lots of people who are vegan, and for any of you guys who are watching who are vegan, please put your insight onto this whole issue, because I'd love to hear it, and your insight onto this person who's so infuriating. I absolutely hate his moral grandstanding, this whole, if you eat meat, you're automatically a bad person. So let me calm down a bit. But on the lighter side, memes, please, please. I need the memes. I need hashtag VeganGoines, and I need it to be spammed in its live stream, if that's not harassment, of course, because I don't want to harass or bully anyone. I need it to be the new Landerson Booper. I know I don't have that big of an audience, but please, please, make VeganGoines a new Landerson Booper. So I hope I was able to debunk this guy, okay, although I know I got pretty angry. As always, I hope you enjoyed this video, and thanks for watching.
Well, feel the funk blast!